Rumpelstiltskin originates from one of the most unsettling tales ever recorded in European folklore. Unlike villains who inspire fear through brute strength or intimidating looks, he stands out for something far more dangerous: cold intelligence, calculated manipulation, and contracts made under pressure. There's no sword, no army, no explosive spell, just deals sealed at the exact moment someone is too vulnerable to think clearly. Over the centuries, this figure became a symbol of the darker side of fairy tales. Many adaptations have explored his cunning nature, amplifying his cruelty and his obsession with unbreakable bargains. But it's in the classic version that his essence feels the clearest and the most disturbing. The story begins with a poor miller, overly proud and eager to impress the king. In a reckless moment, he claims that his daughter has the magical ability to spin straw into gold. This isn't an innocent exaggeration, it's a dangerous lie. King, driven by greed, sees an irresistible opportunity. If it's true, the kingdom grows richer. If it's false, the consequences fall entirely on the girl. The miller's daughter is taken to the castle and locked inside a room piled high with straw. The king's message is direct and ruthless. By morning, all of it must be turned into gold. Otherwise, she will die. With no magical ability whatsoever, the girl spends the night in absolute despair, fully aware that her life depends on the impossible. That's when a strange little man appears. Short, oddly dressed, and completely unfazed by the situation. He asks why she's crying, listens to her story, and offers his help. With supernatural skill, he spins all the straw into shining gold. In return, he asks only for her necklace. With no other option, she agrees. The next morning, the king finds the room overflowing with gold. Instead of being satisfied, he decides to test her again. He moves her to a larger chamber filled with even more straw and repeats the demand. Once again, the little man appears and does the job. This time, he takes her ring. A pattern begins to form. Every miracle has a price, and it keeps increasing. On the third night, the king leads her to a massive hall, packed with straw as far as the eye can see. Promise changes. If she succeeds, she will become queen. If she fails, she dies. Now, beyond fear, there's the weight of a forced rise in status hanging over her. With nothing valuable left to offer, she breaks down in desperation. The little man returns. When he learns she has nothing material left to give, he makes his darkest proposal. He will spin the straw into gold once more, but in exchange, he will claim her firstborn child. Pressured between immediate death and a distant threat that still feels abstract, she agrees. The gold appears again. King, pleased with the wealth, keeps his word and marries her. Time passes. The miller's daughter becomes queen and eventually gives birth to her first child. The deal had nearly been forgotten, but not by the one who made it. Rumpelstiltskin reappears to collect what he believes is rightfully his. Queen, overwhelmed with desperation, offers jewels, treasures, and unimaginable riches. He refuses every offer. To him, the value lies in a promise kept. Still, he gives her one final chance. If she can discover his name within 3 days, she may keep the child. If not, the bargain stands. On the first day, she tries common names one after another. All wrong. On the second, she sends messengers throughout the kingdom to gather rare and unusual names. None of them work. The deadline draws closer. On the third day, a servant returns with unexpected information. In a distant forest, he saw a little man dancing around a fire, proudly singing about how soon he would have the queen's baby, and carelessly revealing his own name in the lyrics, Rumpelstiltskin. When he appears for the final time, confident in his victory, he asks for his name. Queen pretends to guess incorrectly a few times, building his confidence. The last moment, she says it correctly. The reaction is immediate. The little man explodes in fury when he realizes he's been exposed. Depending on the version of the tale, he either runs off never to be seen again or completely loses control, destroying himself in a fit of rage. Queen keeps her child and is freed from the bargain. But what ultimately remains is the character's defining trait. Someone who builds power not through force, but through the precise exploitation of fear and ambition, and who almost won simply because he understood the power of a name. In the Shrek universe, Rumpelstiltskin first appears in Shrek the Third. His role is brief and largely decorative. Character design is different from what audiences would later recognize, and his presence doesn't significantly affect the story. He feels more like a background nod to classic fairy tales than a real threat. Nothing at that point suggests he would eventually become the franchise's main antagonist. That changes decisively in Shrek Forever After. Character is completely reworked. He remains small and physically unimposing, but now his strength lies in strategic intelligence and his ability to manipulate situations to his advantage. Any trace of irrelevance disappears, and he steps into the role of central villain, built around calculated contracts and long-held resentment. The film also explores his past. Rumpelstiltskin lived on the margins of society, in an isolated environment alongside witches, under poor conditions and surrounded by collective disdain. It was a space associated with fear and exclusion, far removed from the prosperity of far, far away. This background helps explain his bitterness and obsession with power. He grew up in the shadow of a kingdom that never accepted him. Meanwhile, King Harold and Queen Lillian were desperate to free Fiona from the curse that kept her locked away in the tower. After countless failed attempts, they turned to Rumpelstiltskin as their last option. And like every deal he proposes, the price was steep. In exchange for breaking the spell and freeing the princess, he demanded control of the kingdom of far, far away. Couple was on the verge of signing the contract. However, just before making their final decision, they received news that Fiona had been rescued by her true love, Shrek. That single event completely ruined Rumpelstiltskin's plan. His opportunity to claim the throne vanished the moment the ogre saved the princess. From that point on, his resentment focused entirely on Shrek, whom he saw as the one responsible for destroying his path to power. Years later, Rumpelstiltskin spots his chance for revenge when he realizes that Shrek has grown frustrated with his routine life. The ogre misses the days when he was feared, when just hearing his name was enough to send people running. Sensing that dissatisfaction, the villain approaches him with what seems like a simple offer. Shrek can relive for one single day the wild and feared life he longs for. In exchange, he will give up just one day of his own life, something that sounds trivial. Trap lies in the fine print. Rumpelstiltskin chooses the exact day of Shrek's birth as payment. Shrek was never born. He never existed to rescue Fiona. With that single clause, the villain completely rewrites the timeline. In the new reality created by the contract, Harold and Lillian end up accepting the deal they once refused, surrendering the kingdom. As a direct consequence, they cease to exist in that alternate timeline. Rumpelstiltskin finally takes control of far, far away and secures the power he always wanted. There's also an interesting twist compared to the original fairy tale. As Donkey explains, in this universe everyone already knows Rumpelstiltskin's name, which makes his old weakness, the secret of his identity, completely useless. Instead, his strategy evolves. He hides specific clauses inside his contracts, manipulates ambiguous wording, and crafts agreements that are nearly impossible to undo. Rather than mystery surrounding his name, the real danger now lies in the fine print. And that's exactly where he proves to be more dangerous than ever. And before you leave, make sure to hit the like button to support the channel. It helps way more than you think and shows that you enjoy this kind of deeper analysis. And don't click away just yet. Tap the video that's on your end screen right now. If you like this topic, the next video keeps expanding on these theories and hidden details. It's already on your screen. Go ahead and keep watching.